Hi, my name's Kim Basinger. I'm Freddie Mercury.
My name's Roger Taylor.
And I'm Brian May from Queen.
Hello, I'm John Deacon from Queen.
Your face fills my mind. I get religion quick, just looking to buy. Honey, you're touching something, you're touching me. I'm under your thumb, under your spell. Can't you see? If I could only reach you, if I could make you smile.
British rock music. It might just be the best genre of music, especially in the 70s and 80s. You had bands like Motorhead, Led Zeppelin, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, among others. These giants were rocking the world, and right in the thick of it was Queen, a band that took that British rock spirit and blasted it into a stratosphere all their own. Welcome to an epic journey through the incredible discography of Queen, one of the most legendary, genre-defying bands in music history. From their debut in 1973 all the way to their final album with Freddie Mercury in 1995, discounting the Flash soundtrack, I'll be looking at the many, many highs and any lows that are also there. Roger Taylor, I'm looking at you. I'll be tiering them based on my honest takes, and we'll explore how Queen evolved over time. So without further ado, let us begin.
They say your books are telling you, be a superstar, but I tell you, just be satisfied and stay right where you are. Keep yourself alive. Yeah. Keep yourself alive. Take you all your time and money, you survive.
Usually bands open with either a classic album and never are able to follow it, or they start with their weakest album and use it as a jumping pad to improve upon. This was the latter. Is it a bad album? No, that is impossible for Queen. It just does not hit the heights of future projects, for me, with only 2 songs really standing out at all in Great King Rat. It has amazing guitar work from Brian May, being heavy but with a tinge of funkiness in there too. It is a wonderfully crafted song with a slower section in the middle, followed by a mini instrumental before going back the faster paced sound to end the song on.
Wouldn't you like to know? Wouldn't you like to know? Wouldn't you like to know? Great King Rat with a dirty old man, and a dirty old man was he. Now what did I tell you? Would you like to see? Show me.
The other notable song to me is Liar, a thumping and clapping start, then the guitar comes in, and we get a long but great intro to the song, reaching around the 90-second mark before Freddie comes in. The harmony on the word liar really hits you and gets you pumped up.
Won't you let me in? Liar! Nobody believes me. Liar! Why don't you leave me, Messiah? I have stolen many times.
Sadly, the rest of the album just hasn't got those qualities. There is some other great songs, but nothing more than great. We have Keep Yourself Alive, which is a good opener, but definitely doesn't hit me like a Queen song should, but the foundations of the song are good. Jesus is quite unique and odd, but it kind of works and stands out on the project, but not one I will listen to much outside of it. Doing All Right and My Fairy King are both solid foundations for future styles of songs that Queen would perfect, with piano-driven natures and overdubbed harmonies. I do not care much for the other 4 tracks. Son and Daughter has some fine elements, but I don't like the effect on Freddie's voice, and it just feels a bit plodding at times. Seven Seas of Rye is unfinished, and would be better on the next album. The Night Comes Down has promise, but never gets going. It's listenable. Modern times rock and roll doesn't have Freddie on vocals, which was a mistake. Queen is not Queen without Freddie singing, I'm sorry. The song sucks. Freddie would have improved on it. It is one of the heavier Queen albums, which serves as a blessing and a curse. To me, Queen are at the best with their more catchy, pop-laden rock songs, with the grandiose feel. That is not present on this album as much. So, for that, I am going to put this into C tier, a solid start, but one of their weaker projects for sure.
Still I wait.
Remember when I said Queen improved from their first album? Well, they did, but not here. To me, this is their weakest album of their careers. This doesn't mean there is nothing to come back to, though. In fact, there is some amazing tracks on here, but equally, there are some of their worst songs. The biggest offenders are Someday One Day being dull and repetitive, and The Loser in the End. Both songs feature other members of Queen on vocals. Also, Funny How Love Is gets on my nerves. Something about the song just annoys me. On the other side of things, we have our first classic Queen song in The March of the Black Queen.
Here comes the Black Queen, walking in the fire. Fight for the Black Queen, marching single file. Take this, take that, bring them down to size.
This is sort of a prelude to Bohemian Rhapsody, with it being a classic Freddie composition of strangeness and crazy genius, many vocal harmonies and tempo changes, which no one does better. Our White Queen is also pretty fantastic. The little acoustic guitar mixed with Freddie's vocals just feels right. The song is quite slow, but builds nicely to the ending where it picks up. It feels really beautiful.
White Queen, how my heart did ache and dry my lips. No words can make. Still I wait.
The Fairyfellas masterstroke is definitely experimental in nature, with some unique sounds and some lovely vocal harmonies and guitar. Father to Son is an okay song. Nothing notable here except it may have been too long and could have been cut down. Nevermore is a short, nice little track, but nothing more. Ogre Battle is pretty great, opening with the ending of the song in reverse. Then we start for real, and we get a heavy metal song which definitely paints the picture of a battle scene. Finally, we end on the completed version of Seven Seas of Rye, Starts, with some lovely piano work from Freddie, and the rest of the song retains being quite good ending the album on a good note. So overall, this album is a mixed bag. Yes, there is some amazing songs here, but you have to wade through some awful songs to get there. This goes in C tier for me as well, my least favorite album.
Caviar, cigarettes, well-versed in etiquette, extraordinarily nice. She's a killer queen, gunpowder gelatine, dynamite with a laser beam, guaranteed to blow your mind.
Now, this is Queen. With their third album, we finally start to get the more pop-oriented sounds mixed with the rock elements in a grandiose and over-the-top fashion, which is what I think is the essence of Queen. It is hard to get this sound right, but more often than not, Queen do such this. First, we have to talk about one of their best songs, maybe just outside the top 10 in Killer Queen. This is supremely catchy, with the vocal harmonies on the chorus sounding majestic, features a lovely little guitar and piano work which complement each other. Other bright spots on the album are Now I'm Here, with the superb gritty guitar work, and of course the classic great vocal harmonies. It is also a wonderful live performance always. There's a trilogy of songs that are connected, which ranges from good to amazing. The first third is Tenement Fuster, which is a rare good non-Freddie sung song. It has a nice grit to it, and the guitar overpowers the vocals. At times, being more of a focus for me when listening, it transitions perfectly into the piano on the intro to the vastly superior flick of the wrist. The chorus on this is fantastic, using the lead and background vocals wonderfully.
Mesmerize you when he stands like simply with those eyes. Synchronize your minds and see the peace within him rise. Down the back, down the back. Picture the wrist and you're dead, baby. Blow him a kiss and you're mad.
We then end the trilogy on a slower and softer piece called Lily of the Valley. It is the weaker of the three. Not bad, it just feels like a filler song on the album. The album opens on a pretty strong note with Brighton Rock, which features a long-ass guitar solo from Brian May, and it is superb. To be honest, the track could have just been that, and it would have been better. Dear Friends is an okay ballad interlude. Misfire is also a short song, a rare one created by John Deacon. It features him doing some nice guitar work. It is too short to be anything special, but it is a nice little treat on the album. She Makes Me is sung by Brian May. Dude, stop trying to sing. Awful. Stone Cold Crazy and Bring Back That Leroy Brown are polar opposites, but I enjoy both songs in their own ways. In the Lap of the Gods is fine, but I prefer the album closer, In the Lap of the Gods, Revisited, which is far superior. It feels like an epic ballad with some amazing vocals, and it makes you sway, while still retaining the rock elements.
In the lap of the gods.
A beautiful way to close the album. Freddie's thoughts on the album were as follows. The album is very varied. We took it to extreme, I suppose, but we are very interested in studio techniques and wanted to use what was available. Of course, there has been some criticism, and the constructive criticism has been very good for us. But to be frank, I'm not that keen on the British music press, and they've been pretty unfair to us. I feel that up-and-coming journalists, by the large, put themselves above the artists. This album gets a high B tier for me. We are definitely finding Queen's sound here with some fantastic tracks, as well as it is more consistent and bigger than their first two projects.
I see a little silhouette of a man. Scaramouche, will you do the fandango? Thunderbolts and lightning, very, very frightening me. Galileo, Galileo, Galileo Figaro. Magnifico!
A theatrical experience blending rock, opera and ballads into an ambitious and genre-defying masterpiece. By 1975, Queen had already proven they are legends in the making, but contractual disputes had left them broke, frustrated and determined to create something spectacular. The result? Their most extravagant and experimental record yet, one that cemented their place as rock legends. The album opens with pure venom. Death on Two Legs.
Are you satisfied? Do you feel like suicide? Is your conscience alive? Between you and I, feel good, I feel good.
It is a furious, scathing attack on Queen's former manager, and Freddie Mercury delivers every word with pure disdain. I love the cruel line, "Do you feel like suicide? I think you should," making it one of the most ruthless, scathing attacks in rock history. The guitars complement the chorus beautifully, making it a perfect blend of anger and theatricality. A hell of a way to start the album. After the aggression of the opener, we get a complete shift in tone with Lazing on a Sunday Afternoon, a charming, whimsical track. Freddie's vocals are filtered through a tin to create a megaphone-style effect, adding to its vintage charm. The little bicycle sound effect is a nice touch, and the playful guitar outro is also. Roger Taylor steps up to the mic for the next song, "I'm in Love with My Car," but the problem is he's just an okay singer. The song itself is basically a love letter to his car, and while it has its fans, it comes off as a bit silly and lame to me. The music itself is fine, but compared to the rest of the album, it feels like an odd detour that doesn't quite hit. You're My Best Friend is next, and was written by John Deacon for his wife. This song is one of Queen's sweetest and most heartfelt tracks. The warmth in Freddie's vocals, combined with the simple but effective instrumentation, makes it an easy favorite for me. It's uplifting, catchy, and just radiates happiness and joy. Brian May takes over vocal duties for the next song, 39, delivering a unique folk rock track with a pirate shanty vibe. The real highlight, though, is the chorus. Freddie and Roger's background vocals elevate the song significantly. If Freddie had sung lead, this could have been an all-time classic, but as it stands, it's still a great and memorable track. So Sweet Lady is a bit of an oddball. The riffs are heavy, the song structure is unconventional, and at times it feels a little messy. But despite that, it has its moments where it really works. It's probably the weakest of the true rock songs on the album, but it's still enjoyable enough. We hear Seaside Rendezvous next. It is another playful moment on the album.
Back to radio, this time of year. It's a fashionable.
Freddie's vocals are outstanding here, effortlessly switching between different styles. But the real standout is the middle section. Roger and Freddie imitate various instruments with just their voices, creating an impressive and fun effect. It's goofy, but it's Queen, so it works. Then we come to one of Queen's most underrated epics, The Prophet's Song. A grandiose 8-minute journey filled with layered vocal harmonies, dramatic instrumental sections, and a dark, apocalyptic atmosphere. The a cappella section is mesmerizing, and the la-la harmonies sound almost celestial. It's often overshadowed by Bohemian Rhapsody, but it deserves just as much praise. Fun fact, I first heard this through Cellar Darling's cover before diving deep into Queen, and I was blown away. From the epic to the serene, Love of My Life, an absolutely breathtakingly beautiful ballad, it is one of Queen's most majestic songs. It's gorgeous on the album, but its true power was realized in live performances, where the crowd would sing every word. The harps add a delicate touch, making this one of the most touching songs in their entire catalogue. You will smile listening to it each time.
Stolen my love, you now desert me. what it means to be.
Brian May returns to lead vocals with the ukulele-driven track Good Company. It's light-hearted and fast-paced, giving the album yet another stylistic twist. The vocals aren't mind-blowing, but the song itself is well-crafted and fun. Bohemian Rhapsody, what more can be said? It's one of the most iconic songs in music history. The operatic section, the emotional piano intro, the head-banging rock outro, it's a masterpiece from start to finish. Critics initially hated it, but time proved them wrong.
Mamma mia, mamma mia.
Mamma mia, let me go. Beelzebub has a devil put aside for me, for me, for me.
The album closes with Queen's take on the UK's national anthem, and honestly, it's the best version of a fairly mediocre anthem. It's a fittingly grand way to end such a theatrical album, but it's not something you'd go back to repeatedly. A Night at the Opera is Queen at their most ambitious, blending every genre they could get their hands on into a cohesive and unforgettable experience. There are a few weaker tracks, but the highs are so high that it easily ranks among their best albums. The sheer variety, technical brilliance and creativity on display make it a defining moment in rock history and worthy of being in the A-tier category. Their best project to date, and it would stay this way for a long time. Coming off the massive success of A Night at the Opera, Queen had the difficult task of following up what was essentially a masterpiece. A Day at the Races feels like a natural extension of its predecessor, carrying over the same eclectic mix of styles and grandiose arrangements. However, while it has its moments of brilliance, it doesn't quite reach the same heights, feeling like a less refined version of what came before. You know, the album kicks off with the straightforward rock track Tie Your Mother Down. It's bluesy, aggressive and energetic enough to work as an opener. Freddie delivers his lines with attitude, and the slide guitar solo is a highlight. But compared to Queen's more layered and theatrical compositions, it feels a bit simple. We follow that track with a breathtaking vocal performance on You Take My Breath Away. Pun intended. Freddie Mercury's piano work here is stunning. The atmosphere is haunting and delicate, almost hypnotic, but at over 5 minutes it ever so slightly drags, especially since it's such a minimalistic track. If it had been trimmed to 3 minutes, it would have been a stronger entry. Brian May takes lead vocals on Long Away, and this time his voice actually suits the song well. It's soothing, with a dreamy and laid-back quality that makes it one of the more pleasant listens on the album.
Come let the new child play. Glorio's always born a star chase. Don't leave him here alone. For all the stars in heaven, I would not live, I could not live this way.
The guitar work is understated, but effective, making for a nice change of pace. Then we come to the Millionaire Waltz. Queen being ambitious and theatrical, but it's a mixed bag. Some parts of the arrangement are fantastic, with the waltz timing adding a unique flair. The way the guitar crashes in midway through is brilliant, but then it loses momentum before finding its footing again. The constant shifting makes it feel longer than it is, and while there are some great moments, it's a bit inconsistent. We get a more consistent, solid track written by John Deacon in You and I. It's well-paced, easy to listen to, and has a great chorus. While it's not as immediately memorable as some of Queen's bigger hits, it's the kind of song that grows on you with time. A simple but effective addition to the album.
After ringing in the darkness, people drinking for days gone by.
Next up is Somebody to Love. This is where A Day at the Races truly shines. Somebody to Love takes Queen's signature layered vocal harmonies and combines them with a gospel-influenced sound, creating a massive choir-like effect. Freddie's vocals are outstanding, and the song seamlessly blends gospel, rock, and operatic elements. It captures everything great about Queen, the drama, the power, the ambition, and stands as one of their most iconic tracks. We follow with one of the heaviest tracks on the album, White Man. With a raw, hard rock sound, it stands out from the rest. But despite its intensity, it doesn't leave a lasting impression to me. It's not bad, it's good, but it feels lesser in comparison to the rest of the album. Good, old-fashioned lover boy, an absolute gem. The chorus is ridiculously catchy, Freddie's vocals are playful and charismatic, and the song has an old-school charm that makes it irresistible. It's one of those tracks that only gets better with repeated listens. The guitar solo is cool and fits perfectly within the song's whimsical tone. Easily one of the best tracks here. It just etches into my top 10 Queen songs.
Dining at the Ritz, we'll meet at 9. Precisely, I will pay the bill, you taste the wine. Driving back in style in my saloon will do quite nicely. Take me back to yours, that will be fine. Gonna get it. Ooh, lover boy, watching it tonight, hey boy.
On Drowse, Roger Taylor takes the lead again, and it's not great. His vocals are weak, the mix feels off, and the song itself is messy in a way that isn't enjoyable. It tries to be experimental, but just comes off as chaotic and underwhelming. Definitely one of the weaker moments on the album. To end the album, we leave on Teo Toriate, a touching tribute to Queen's Japanese fans, partially sung in Japanese. It's a heartfelt closer with a grand anthemic feel. However, it stretches a bit too long, making it a song that's more respectable than truly enjoyable. Still, it serves as a solid ending to the album. While A Day at the Races follows the same blueprint as A Night at the Opera, it lacks the same magic. There are still great moments, Somebody to Love and Good Old-Fashioned Lover Boy being the clear standouts, but much of the album feels like a step down. Some songs overstay their welcome, while others just don't leave much of an impact. It's a good album, but compared to its predecessor, it's undeniably a disappointment. It just goes into B tier, but easily one of my least favorite Queen albums.
Big disgrace, somebody better put your bag into your place. We will rock you. Sing it. We will rock you. Everybody,
News of the World was a complete reversal, really, because we got more and more complex up to A Night at the Opera and A Day at the Races, which were kind of twin albums, we felt. And at that point, we felt we had to go back and kind of start again with the very simple things. And News of the World is really very straight rock album, you know, there's almost no extra overdubbing, you know.
After the grand operatic style of their previous albums, News of the World marks a noticeable shift in Queen's sound. It strips away much of the over-the-top theatrics in favor of a more straightforward rock approach, likely influenced by the rise of punk rock at the time. While the album contains some of Queen's biggest anthems, it's also an inconsistent listen, with a mix of classics, solid rockers, and a few forgettable moments. Freddie said, about this direction of the band, I feel the Queen style of well-produced or production sort of albums is over. We've done to death multi-tracked harmonies, and for our own sakes and for the public's, we want to go on to a different sort of project, and the next album will be that. Few songs in history are as universally recognized as We Will Rock You. Its simple yet powerful stomp-stomp-clap rhythm is the ultimate stadium anthem, and the final version's guitar solo adds a perfect finishing touch. The original solo was terrible, but thankfully they got it right in the end. short, effective, and an absolute classic, easily deserving of its legendary status, and my 13th favourite song from Queen. Another stadium rock masterpiece, We Are the Champions, is the definition of a sing-along anthem, and Freddie's powerful theatrical delivery elevates it to legendary status. It's a song that practically begs to be sung at full volume, and its uplifting, victorious tone has made it an eternal favourite in sports and celebrations, one of Queen's finest and my 10th favourite Queen song.
I consider it a challenge before the whole human race, and I ain't gonna lose. We are the champions, my friends, and we'll keep on fighting till the end.
We then take a sharp turn into punk rock territory with Sheer Heart Attack. This fast-paced, aggressive track has an electrifying energy, with a chorus that sounds especially cool. However, the vocal track doesn't quite hit as hard as it could. Still, it's a great example of Queen adapting to the times, delivering a punchy rocker that feels raw and urgent. After this, we come to the song All Dead, All Dead, a melancholic and beautifully composed song, featuring Brian May on vocals. The piano work is lovely, and the song carries a quiet sadness that sets it apart from the rest of the album. While it's not among Queen's most famous tracks, it's a touching, well-crafted piece that adds some emotional depth to the record. Next, John Deacon once again proves he can write an incredible song. Spread Your Wings is an inspiring, anthemic track with a gritty sung chorus that makes you want to sing along. It's one of those songs that only gets better with repeated listens, and it's my 18th favourite Queen song. It may not have had the same mainstream impact as other tracks, but it's one of the album's standout gems to me. On Fight from the Inside, Roger Taylor takes full control, writing, playing and singing everything. Unfortunately, while the guitar work is solid, his vocals are rough and the song itself is pretty bland. It lacks excitement or energy. We then get a bit funky on Get Down, Make Love. It leans heavily into sexual themes and has some fantastic piano work and an overall sultry groove. However, the strange psychedelic section in the middle derails the momentum, bringing the song down a few notches. It's an interesting experiment, but not one of Queen's best. Follow this, we have Sleeping on the Sidewalk, a blues rock number with Brian May on lead vocals, sung in an American accent. It's a laid-back, foot-tapping song that has a great feel to it. The simplicity works in its favour, making it a refreshing change of pace, one of the more enjoyable deep cuts on the album.
Trumpet was my only toy. Been blowing my horse since I knew I was born, but there ain't nobody wants to know. I've been sleeping on the sidewalk, rolling down the road. I'm getting hungry, but I sure don't wanna go home.
Who Needs You is a Latin-inspired soft song that has its moments but lacks the big impact of Queen's best ballads. While the instrumentation is nice and gives it a unique sound, it never really takes off. It's pleasant enough but ultimately forgettable. The penultimate song is It's Late, and it is overly long and somewhat repetitive and struggles to maintain my interest. The first third drags, the second third is fantastic, and the final third is tolerable but doesn't quite recapture the magic. While the chorus is solid, the song as a whole feels uneven and could have been much tighter. The album closes with the slow, jazz-influenced My Melancholy Blues, which showcases Freddie Mercury's incredible vocals. It's a smooth, relaxed track that, while not particularly groundbreaking, serves as a pleasant and fitting conclusion to the album. News of the World is a bold shift in Queen's sound, moving away from their grandiose rock opera style and embracing a more stripped-down, rock-oriented approach. The album's first 2 tracks are absolute classics that have stood the test of time, and there are other gems that add to its strength. However, the album is also uneven, with some filler tracks and a few underwhelming moments. While it's far from Queen's best, it's still a solid rock album with high points that remain some of their greatest work. B tier for me. Jazz is Queen at their most eclectic and unpredictable. After the stripped-down rock approach of News of the World, this album sees them return to a more varied and playful style, jumping between rock, ballads, funk, and even Arabic-inspired melodies. While it doesn't always hit the mark, it features some and entertaining songs. And an absolutely bizarre way to open the album is Mustafa, but it somehow works. A mix of Arabic-style melodies and rock, with Freddie belting out some real words in multiple languages and some gibberish. It's weird, it's energetic, and only Queen could pull this off. Then we transition into the complete opposite song, Fat-Bottomed Girls. A hard rock anthem dedicated to the appreciation of women with big butts. What's not to love? The song kicks off with its catchy chorus, and the guitar work is great. It's fun, bold, and one of Queen's more memorable rock tracks. A Rolling Stone critic called Queen fascist for this song. When you have no real criticism, just call them fascist. That is actually something that has stuck in media to this day. The third track is Jealousy, a gorgeous, delicate ballad with a lovely acoustic guitar and piano arrangement. Freddie's vocals are fantastic as always, making this an underrated, hidden gem. And then we get some high energy with Bicycle Race, and this is a completely ridiculous, playful track that only Queen could make work. The bicycle bell solo before the actual guitar solo is peak Queen absurdity, and it's all the better for it. The song's odd structure, clever wordplay, and over-the-top delivery make it endlessly entertaining. Also, the music video with naked women riding bikes, I approve.
Say Rose, I say Royce, say God, give me a choice. Say Lord, I say Christ, I don't believe in Peter Pan, Frankenstein, or Superman. All I wanna do is bicycle, bicycle, bicycle. I want to ride my bicycle, bicycle, bicycle. I want to ride my bicycle. I want to ride my bike.
We then have If You Can't Beat Them, which is a solid, hard rock track, but ultimately feels like filler. It's enjoyable, but nothing particularly stands out about it. Next up is a song about Queen's commitment to putting on a great show, even referencing their song Teo Toriat by saying they'll sing in Japanese if needed in Let Me Entertain You. It's got some great energy, but the chorus isn't as strong as it could be. A good song, but not quite a highlight. It's a mixed bag for me. I can't quite tell if I hate it or love it. A Marmite song. But what is not a Marmite song is Dead on Time, one of the best songs on the album. It opens with blistering guitar work and never lets up, with a relentless pace that makes it one of Queen's most exhilarating tracks. The way Freddie's vocals build alongside the instruments is fantastic.
Live on time, shake that bell, live on time, live on time, live on time, fight your battle, but you live on time, live on time, live on time, you never got a minute, no, you never got a minute, no, you never got, oh, no matter who, got no business, hang around and tell the lies. Ooh, you got no reason, but you got no compromise.
Pure rock adrenaline. We then calm down with In Only 7 Days, which is a short, sweet ballad with a calm, dreamy atmosphere. It's light, airy, and feels like a warm embrace. I don't think it will be for everyone's tastes, but it makes me happy. Following this is Dreamer's Ball, a Brian May tribute to Elvis Presley. It's a smooth, laid-back track with some nice guitar work, but it doesn't leave a huge impression. Fun It is a funk-inspired track by Taylor and Freddie. The thumping drums and guitar intro are cool, and Freddie's parts are strong, but Taylor's sections bring it down a little. Brian May takes the lead on the next ballad, Leaving Home Ain't Easy. It's an okay track, but feels a bit dull compared to the rest of the album. More of a filler song. But then we come to the peak of the album with an absolute Queen classic and one of their greatest songs.
I'm a racing car passing by like Lady Godiva. I'm gonna go, go, go. There's no stopping me. I'm burning through the sky. 200 degrees, that's why they call me Mr. Fahrenheit. I'm traveling at the speed of light. I wanna make a supersonic man out of you. Don't stop me now. I'm having such a good time. I'm having a ball.
Don't Stop Me Now is fast, uplifting, and impossible not to sing along to. Freddie sounds untouchable here, and the guitar solo is fantastic. It makes you feel invincible. My sixth favourite Queen song, we end the album on a lower note, with the week More of That Jazz. Another Roger Taylor track, and honestly not a great way to close the album. It's boring and forgettable. The medley of previous songs at the end is interesting, but it doesn't save it. Jazz is an album packed with variety, from Arabic rock to funk to fast-paced hard rock. While it has some absolute highlights and one of their best songs, it also has a few filler tracks that drag it down. But overall it is quite consistently good, especially at the start. It's a fun listen that embraces Queen's theatrical and experimental nature. Music critics in the 70s hated Queen, and then when Freddie died, they suddenly pretended they always respected them. A perfect example of how most critics don't actually have opinions, they just follow trends and repackage them with pretentious wording to sound smart. But I am honest, and I quite like this album. High B tier and in their top half of albums. Good work.
Play the game. Everybody play the game of love.
With the game, Queen fully embraced the 1980s, incorporating funk, pop, and even synths for the first time. It's a mix of styles, classic Queen rock, funk grooves, and even rockabilly. And while not as theatrical as some of their 70s work, it remains a great album with some of their biggest hits. Play the Game is a grand cinematic opener that brings back the over-the-top, larger-than-life Queen sound. Freddie's soft vocals are great, and the song builds nicely, though it doesn't quite hit the heights of some of their other tracks. We get some funk next with the groovy track Dragon Attack, which showcases some of Queen's best rhythm work. The guitar solo is fantastic, and the song's incredibly tight, though it can feel a bit repetitive as it goes on. Then we come to John Deacon's magnum opus, Another One Bites the Dust.
Another one bites the dust. Another one bites the dust. Ow! Another one bites the dust. Hey, hey! Another one bites the dust. Hey! Ooh, shout! There are plenty of ways that you can hurt a man and bring him to the ground. You can beat him, you can cheat him, you can treat him bad, or you leave him when he's down.
An absolute masterpiece of funk rock. The bass line is legendary, and the entire song is just dripping with coolness. The greatest ever, Michael Jackson, pushed for Queen to release this as a single despite their hesitance. It became their best-selling single. The hand claps, the smooth yet powerful drums, the sharp guitar stabs, it's perfect. Easily one of Queen's best songs, and my second favourite Queen song, and my favourite up to this point. Next we have Need Your Loving Tonight, a power pop tune written by John Deacon, and it's a fun, light-hearted track. Freddie's soft vocals work well here, and while it's not a standout, it's a solid album song. Another classic is next with Crazy Little Thing Called Love.
Raise a little thing all over.
brilliantly fun rockabilly-inspired track, written by Freddie in just 10 minutes, while barely knowing how to play guitar. The simplicity works in its favor, and the "Ready Freddie" moment is iconic. It would be their first US #1 hit. We come down a bit with "Rocket," a Roger Taylor track where he sings most of it. It's an okay song, but it doesn't really stand out. A bit bland and feels like filler. Then we come to a weirdly structured song, "Don't Try Suicide," with an odd mix of playful instrumentation and serious subject matter. The piano intro is nice and the bass line is strong, but the song never fully takes off. But from the odd to the sublime, a deep-cut hidden gem in "Sail Away, Sweet Sister." Brian May's vocals are emotional and strong, making this a beautiful ballad. It's one of those songs that gets overlooked but deserves more attention.
Sail away, sweet sister, sail across the sea. Maybe you'll find somebody who love you half as much as me. My heart is always with you, no matter what you do. Sail away, sweet sister, always be in love with you.
Coming Soon is next, and it is a catchy, energetic little song. The way Coming Soon is sung sticks in your head, and while it's not a majorly memorable track, it's enjoyable enough to be on the album. We close with Save Me. This is a powerful power ballad, and Freddie absolutely kills it on the vocals, especially in the chorus. Brian May wrote this about Freddie's relationship struggles, which adds to the emotion and closes the album strong. The game is an interesting mix of styles, funk, rockabilly, classic rock and ballads, all wrapped in an early 80s polish. It produced two of Queen's biggest hits, and while some tracks feel like filler, the highlights are undeniable. Once again, critics originally trashed it, only for it to be loved in hindsight. The pattern is obvious. Queen was never critically approved until Freddie died, and Queen's music continued to be adored worldwide by real fans, proving how full of it most music journalists are. They just follow trends and rewrite history when they're proven wrong. To me, this album stands right in the middle of their discography and in the B tier. Great album again from these icons.
Wind me up and let me play. Oh yeah, you burn all my energy. But the size and all you see. Analyzing what I say. And you always get your way.
It's sort of new, but I mean, it's not totally new because it started off by John writing another one, Bites the Dust, which was on the previous album, and I think since then we sort of decided that we'd sort of carry on with that kind of sound. It's basically sort of me. I mean, it doesn't really travel through the group that way. It's sort of, we have individual approaches, really. I sort of opted out for that kind of sound, but if you ask the others, I mean, they probably have.
Oh boy, Hot Space is Queen's most controversial album. On each ranking I've seen, I have yet to see this not be at the bottom until today. I have to be honest, I adore this album. The band leaned heavily into funk, disco and pop, ditching much of their traditional rock sound, but not completely. While fans and critics hate it, I don't. Queen are not just a rock band. They are all about the over-the-top, grandiose, charismatic charm they bring, which is present on this album too. I think it's easy to be angry that it isn't rock, but then they would be criticized for releasing the same album each time. Also, this album had influence on Thriller, so it's not like the sound was a mistake, just ahead of its time by mere months. Staying Power, a funky opener with a killer horn section. The energy is off the charts, Freddie's vocals are fantastic, and the groove is infectious.
You and me, we gotta stay power.
A great way to kick off the album, thus straight away proving my point of this album's greatness. This could have been the lead single. We then come to another banger in Dancer, which just hits into your soul, a disco rock hybrid that just works. The rhythmic nature is addictive, and the chorus is superb. The guitar solo is great too, showing that even in their poppiest moments, Queen never lost their rock edge. Yes, then there is Back Chat. Wow. One of Queen's funkiest tracks and my 5th favourite Queen song for a reason. The groove is pure perfection and the chorus is incredible. The breakdown at the end and the guitar solo take it to another level. Honestly, this could have easily been a Michael Jackson song. It has that vibe to it and it's that good. How you can listen to this and not sing along or dance is crazy to me. The album does fall off for a couple of songs next with Body Language, which should have not been the lead single at all. I think this being the first taste of the album hurt its image. It is a weird and campy song, and definitely not for everyone. The bass line is strong, and there are some nice moments, but overall, it's one of the weaker tracks. Then Action This Day. The chorus is decent, but the song itself is just odd and slightly annoying. It feels like they were experimenting a little too much here. But that is what experimentation is for. We come back to life with the most traditionally rock song on the album, in Put Out the Fire. The falsetto section is a great touch before the strong chorus, and the guitar solo is fantastic. A nice balance to all the funk. We keep on track with Life is Real, a John Lennon tribute. Even if you don't like Lennon, I don't, this song is well crafted. The way it starts with a single piano note reminds me of Runaway by Ye. The pacing is nicely done, and it's a good track with the piano note throughout being enjoyable. We get a more fast-paced track next with an infectious energy in Calling All Girls, and the guitar feedbacks add a cool touch, and the chorus is great. Definitely an underrated gem that gets you moving. We have Las Palabras de Amor next, a song inspired by their Latin American fans. Not much else to say. It's just a solid track that fits well within the album. We close the album on a strong note like we opened the album on. Firstly, Cool Cat, completely different from anything else in their catalogue. The falsetto vocals are gorgeous, the background vocals add a smooth touch, and the funk vibes are immaculate, criminally underrated and silky smooth. We end on an iconic track, Under Pressure, one of the most iconic bass lines in music history. John Deacon was on another level. Even if you're not a Bowie fan, he does good here, although Freddie outshines him easily. The final half of the song is pure magic. It is a wonderfully arranged song. Hot Space was Queen's biggest risk, and people hated it at the time because they weren't ready for it. But when you listen to it now, it's clear this album was way ahead of its time, so much so that it directly influenced Thriller. People only hate on it because others tell them to, but it's actually great. Take away the Queen name, and this is a classic to everyone. Also, critics trashing it for using synths while praising Iron Maiden for doing the same later is just proof that music journalism is full of hypocrites who just follow trends instead of forming their own opinions. Underrated as hell, go in with open ears and just listen to the songs.
All we hear is Radio Gaga, Radio Goo Goo, Radio Gaga. All we hear is Radio Gaga, Radio Gaga, Radio what's new.
The works marks Queen's return to a more rock-oriented sound after Hot Space, though they still incorporate a lot of 80s electronica. It's a mix of stadium rock anthems and synth-driven tracks, with some standout moments, but also a few forgettable ones. Critics, as usual, were confused. They whined about Hot Space being too different, then still weren't satisfied when Queen brought back the rock elements. You just can't win with them. The album hits us straight from the start with Radio Gaga, an epic defense of radio and one of Queen's most iconic songs.
Then Roger would come up with something like Radio Gaga, and it's perfect.
My 2-year-old son was listening to the radio, and I thought it was all, he just said, oh, Radio Gaga or something. And I had to agree.
On Newington Grand, so stick around, 'cause we might miss you when we grow tired of all this visual. You had the time, you had the power, you've yet to have your finest hour. Radio. All we hear is Radio Gaga, Radio Goo Goo, Radio Gaga.
The blend of electronic sounds with stadium rock makes this feel massive. The "all we hear is Radio Gaga" chant is legendary, and it's easy to see why this became such a fan favorite. We then get some grit and rock with "Tear It Up." The chorus is strong and powerful, and it's a great mood lifter. Definitely one of the more straightforward rockers on the album, a force of nature. Following this is "It's a Hard Life." Freddie absolutely kills it on vocals here. The opening operatic section is stunning, and the harmonies throughout are beautiful. The chorus is a highlight, making this one of the best tracks on the album.
You win, you lose. There's a chance you have to take with love. Oh yeah, I fell in love, but now you say it's over, and I'm falling apart. It's a hard life to be true lovers together, to love and live forever in each other's hearts.
Man on the Prowl follows, and it is a really fun rockabilly song in the vein of Crazy Little Thing Called Love, but not as iconic. Still, it's a good album track with playful energy and puts a smile on my face. One of the weaker tracks follow in Machines. Lots of electronica in this one, and while the idea is interesting, the robotic vocal effects don't work too well. It's a bit too long and not as strong as other songs on the album. A swing and a miss for me. But what does not miss is the next iconic track, I Want to Break Free. One of Queen's biggest hits, but it destroyed their US career thanks to the music video with them in drag. Americans just couldn't handle it. Beyond the controversy, it's an incredibly catchy pop rock song with a great synth solo.
Oh, how I want to be free. Oh,
Keep Passing the Open Windows is a solid track with a good bass line and strong chorus. It's a good album song, but maybe drags a touch or too long. The penultimate track is Hammer to Fall. This is one of the heavier tracks and a fan favourite live. The guitar solo is great and it has strong rock energy, but it doesn't stand out as much compared to Queen's other rock anthems to me. Sadly, the album ends on a sour note for me with Is This the World We Created? A sappy attempt at a socially conscious song, a weak way to end the album. Charity songs are hard to make work and not be lame. The works brought back the rock elements while still keeping with the 80s trends, but critics still weren't happy because at this point they didn't even know what they wanted from Queen. The album has some great moments, but it also has some filler and ends wimpily. Still, it's a solid effort with some legendary tracks. B tier for me, one of their weaker albums.
Inside your mind is challenging the doors of time.
A Kind of Magic is a unique album in Queen's discography, heavily influenced by their work on the Highlander soundtrack. While not a full-fledged soundtrack album, many tracks are tied to the movie.
We did all the music for the film first, and they dubbed it onto the film. Then when we came to do the album, we actually rearranged a lot of the tracks, made them, longer, and wrote more lyrics and tried to make them into fully fledged songs. So they're, so they stand up in their own right, without necessarily having to be with the film. You could actually hear them on the radio, and they would sound like, songs rather than actually more incidental music.
This is also the last album they toured for, as Freddie's health would prevent future world tours, and is the first album after their iconic Live Aid performance. Despite the usual critic nonsense, the album has some absolute gems and one of Queen's most epic ballads. We roar open with One Vision. What an epic and iconic way to start your album.
One bone, one true religion, one race, one hope, one real decision. Stump, one talk, two tits, John Deacon. Yeah, 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 yeah.
The song's build-up, guitar solo and sheer power make it a killer start. The fried chicken line at the end is hilarious, and the song has a stadium rock energy that's infectious. One of their best anthems and my 19th favourite Queen song. We follow with another iconic song and my 9th favourite Queen song in A Kind of Magic. Roger Taylor wrote a good song for once.
It's a kind of magic. One shot of light that shows the way. No mortal man can win this day. It's a kind of magic. The bell that rings inside your mind is challenging the doors of time.
Super catchy with fantastic finger clicks and groove. Freddie's vocals are insanely smooth and the chorus is unforgettable. This is one of Queen's most iconic songs, and for good reason, definitely top tier. Following this, John Deacon tries his hand at writing another iconic song, and he does a great job. 1 Year of Love is a beautifully arranged ballad with strong emotions. The saxophone solo adds a nice touch, and the string arrangements make it feel lush and powerful. A deeply underrated song.
Ended up writing another slow ballad in a 6/8 sort of, which is called 1 Year of Love, and that's when he eventually decides to have another relationship with a woman again, because he vowed he never would again because it hurt him so much the first one.
Just 1 year of love is better than a lifetime alone. One sentimental moment in your arms is like a shooting star right through my heart.
A couple of not so iconic but still great tracks follow, with Pain Is So Close to Pleasure, with Freddie's amazing falsetto being a highlight here, giving a smooth and soulful feel. The chorus is lovely and the song serves as a nice calming break from the bigger anthems. Then we have the nice and sweet Friends Will Be Friends, a classic Queen pop rock track. It doesn't particularly stand out among their massive discography, but it's a feel-good song with a strong chorus. A solid album track that will make you smile, and it has a nice message. Then we come to one of the most epic power ballads ever written, Who Wants to Live Forever. Brian May opens the song before Freddie takes over, and the emotional build-up is stunning. The orchestration is breathtaking, just an absolute masterpiece. We come down for a little bit though with Give Me the Prize, the rockiest song on the album, with a solid chorus and a gritty feel. However, the Highlander movie clips are distracting and kind of hurt the song's flow. Without them, this could have been a stronger track. Don't Lose Your Head similarly doesn't quite hit, a filler track, but still enjoyable. There's nothing particularly bad about it, but it doesn't stand out compared to the stronger songs on the album. We close on Princes of the Universe, an amazing vocal intro with some of the best harmonies on the album. Freddie's gritty and aggressive vocals add so much energy, and the outro's fast pace is a highlight. A great and strong way to close the album. A Kind of Magic has a mix of stadium anthems, beautiful ballads, and only a few weaker moments. It's an incredible album overall, boosted by some of my most beloved tracks. The Highlander influence is a cool touch and doesn't dampen the album bar one song. As usual, critics trashed it at the time because they never knew what they wanted from Queen. But I adore it. It is one of my favourite Queen albums, a truly enjoyable album.
I guess when people see The Miracle, I want them to see the cover and see four people almost indistinguishable from each other, and I'd like them to feel that inside that rapper there's a group who has almost the same feeling. It's a very closely knit group, and we're very much alive, and we're very much out there again, and we want to make you smile.
It's a bit of a heavy title in a way, but it was from one song. I think the sentiment is quite nice in a way. A bit naive in some ways, but it's reasonably genuine. But mainly it's entertainment, and if people get pleasure out of it and enjoy it, then that's the main point.
I think it's a very rounded album. I think it's quite mature. It's eclectic, and it's got a lot of hard-ass, great guitar on it. I'd say go out and buy it.
By 1989, Queen was in a bittersweet position. Freddie had been diagnosed with his illness, and the band knew the days of touring were over. Yet, despite this, The Miracle is filled with energy, experimentation, and some of Queen's strongest tracks ever. There's a mix of hard rock, funk, and synth-driven tracks with anthetic moments and deeply personal themes. This album is a wonderful journey. Now, we do begin with the two weakest tracks on the album, but it does get so much better. Party started as a jam session, and it feels like one. The guitar part is great, but the song feels a bit thin and lacks fullness at the start. Not a bad opener, but nothing special. We then have Khashoggi's Ship, a stronger track than Party, with Freddie's gritty vocal delivery shining. The middle section is a highlight and the ending is strong. Solid, but not top tier. But then the album really gets into gear with the sublime title track, The Miracle.
The wonders of this world go on, the hanging gods of Babylon, Captain Cook and Cain and Abel, Jimmy Hendrix to the Tower of Babel. It's a miracle, it's a miracle, it's a miracle, it's a miracle.
A very complex song with inspiring and upbeat lyrics. The chorus is fantastic, and I love how it transitions into that faded-in outro section. It shouldn't work, but it does. The song feels massive in scope, and the guitar work is excellent. Odd structure, but it works beautifully. Remarkable work. We continue the brilliance with I Want It All, an absolute anthem of rebellion and power. The guitar intro is legendary. The verses flow perfectly and the bass line holds everything together. The chorus is one of Queen's most anthematic moments, and the bridge leading into the guitar solos is flawless. Just a monster of a song, and my 7th favourite Queen song. Continuing on the absolute bangers is The Invisible Man, a funky synth-driven track with rhythmic groove. Freddie's whisper singing and snarl add to the mood, and the way the band members' names are called out throughout the song is a cool touch. The chorus hits hard, and the guitar solo is killer.
I'm in your room, I'm in your bed, and I'm in your life, and I'm in your head. Like the CIA or the FBI, you'll never get close, never take me alive. I'm the invisible man, I'm the invisible man. Incredible how you can see right through me. I'm the invisible man.
One of Queen's most underrated bangers, and my 16th favourite Queen song. Breakthrough is next, and it is a song that feels like pure momentum. That intro from an unraised song transitions perfectly into an upbeat, fast-paced track. The chorus is powerful, and the music video with the steam train is legendary. Freddie with a full beard just looks badass, not gonna lie. My 4th favourite Queen song.
Honey, you're sparking something this far of me. I'm out of control. I wanna rush headlong into this ecstasy. If I could only reach you, if I could make you smile, if I could only reach you, that would really be breakthrough. If I could only reach you, if I could make you smile, if I could only reach you.
Then we eventually have to come down, but not by much, with Rain Must Fall. An odd track, but really rhythmic and cool. The piano work is fantastic, and the chorus has a nice bounce to it. The simple but effective guitar solo adds to the charm. It is a song that is not too memorable, but you love it each time you listen to it. Then, my favourite Queen song of all time.
So let them know when they stare, it's just a private affair. They'll have a song in the air, and tell me what do they care. It's only a life to be twisted and broken. They'll see the heartache, they'll see our love break, yeah.
Scandal, an anti-media anthem. I love it. The media and journalists are trash, and this song captures that frustration perfectly. Roger Taylor bizarrely hates it, but let's be honest, most of his songs are mid, so his opinion doesn't count. Freddie's vocals are some of his most powerful, the song has an epic feel, and the synth metal elements are slick as hell. The guitar work is incredible, and the solo is superb. We then come down again with My Baby Does Me, a funky, sexy song with smooth and soulful vocals. It's a simple track, but Freddie's performance makes it work. We then close epically with Freddie's unofficial goodbye song, and it's stunning. Was it all worth it? He gives everything here, and the lyrics feel like a reflective farewell. The yes, it was a worthwhile experience, ha ha ha, ending is so poignant and so Freddie. The dark middle section adds a sense of finality, and the orchestration is phenomenal. If this had been their last song ever, it would have been a perfect way to go out.
Living, breathing rock and roll, this never-ending fight. Was it all worth it? Was it all worth it? Yes, it was a worthwhile experience.
The Miracle is an album filled with energy despite the circumstances surrounding its creation. Freddie knew his time was limited, and you can feel him giving everything he had in each track. The mix of hard rock, funk and synth elements work well, and songs like Scandal, Breakthrough and I Want It All rank among Queen's best. The few weaker moments don't drag the album down too much. This is a masterfully well-crafted album that you need to listen to. Ultimately, this is my favourite Queen album. It could have been the end, but we got one more in Freddie's lifetime.
While we live according to race, color or creed.
Queen's final album, released in Freddie Mercury's lifetime, is a testament to his resilience, talent and sheer willpower. Recorded while he was incredibly ill, Innuendo still features some of his most powerful vocal performances and a mix of grand theatrical compositions alongside light-hearted fun tracks. There's a bittersweet energy to it. It's an album that balances impending tragedy with moments of joy and humour. We open with a song often compared to Bohemian Rhapsody for its multi-part structure in the title track Innuendo.
While we rule by blind madness and pure greed, our lives dictated by tradition, superstition, false religion. Through the hours and on and on. Oh, yes, we'll keep on trying. We'll tread that fine line.
This track feels epic and dramatic. The Spanish guitar solo is unexpected but works beautifully, and the guitar work throughout is excellent. It's a grand statement, though not one of my personal top-tier Queen songs. Still, a strong album opener. We then come to a weird, darkly comedic track with Freddie at his most playful in I'm Going Slightly Mad. The contrast between the brooding instrumental and absurd lyrics like I think I'm banana tree is fantastic. His delivery makes the song stand out.
I'm coming down with a fever. I'm really out to sea. This kettle is boiling over. I think I'm a banana tree. Oh dear. I'm going slightly mad. I'm going slightly mad. It finally happened.
Next up is my 17th favourite Queen song in Headlong. Fast-paced, energetic rock similar to Breakthrough, and it's just so much fun. The nonsense lyrics somehow work, and that hoop-diddy-diddy, hoop-diddy-doo bit is weirdly addictive. Great chorus, fantastic guitar solo. This one never gets old.
She used to be a woman with a hot dog stand. Whoop-diddy-doo. Now you got soup in the laundry bag. Now you got strings, you're gonna lose your rag. You're getting in a fight that ain't so groovy when you're screaming in the night. Let me out of this cheap movie. Headlong down the highway, and you're rushing headlong, out of control. And you think you're so strong, but there ain't no stopping.
Sadly, the album does go slightly down for the next part, but still with good songs, just not as good as these. I Can't Live With You has a great pre-chorus which sounds absolutely fantastic. The chorus itself is fine, and the song has strong vocals throughout, but it doesn't quite hit the heights of the best tracks on the album. Then we have Don't Try So Hard, a moody, atmospheric song with a haunting quality. The dark and brooding guitar solo at the end stands out. Not a standout track, but are still a solid part of the album. Up next is Ride the Wild Wind. I love the race car sound effects, which adds a cool energy to the track. The pacing is smooth and it has a great driving rhythm. Not one of Queen's all-time best, but a fun track that has grown on me. A bit of a change of pace with All God's People, the gospel-inspired rock track that feels like a bit like filler. Not bad, but it doesn't stand out much compared to the other songs here. Back to brilliance with These Are the Days of Our Lives, a deeply emotional farewell song written by Roger Taylor. The music video featuring Freddie's final appearance is heartbreaking, especially with his whispered, "I still love you," which he did straight to the camera knowing it was his farewell.
Worst of you. Those days are all gone now, but one thing's still true. When I look and I find I still love you. I still love you.
He went out in his own theatrical way. The song itself is soft, serene and beautiful. After this we have Delilah. Yes, it's about Freddie's cat, and yes, I completely get why some people don't like it, but I think it's a warm, sweet song. The guitar meowing is oddly charming and the vibe is just lovely. I know it's corny and soft, but it just makes me happy. Sue me. We then go to the complete opposite extreme with The Hitman. Queen goes full heavy metal here and it works. Gritty, powerful and cool, with a strong bass line and an excellent guitar solo. The penultimate track is the weakest, Bijou. This one just never really starts. It's slow and underwhelming, especially compared to the rest of the album. Luckily, the album closer, The Show Must Go On, saves it. An epic power ballad, made even more incredible by the fact that Freddie was dying while recording it. Brian May thought he wouldn't be able to do it. May recalled, "I said, Fred, I don't know if this is going to be possible to sing." And he went, "I'll fucking do it, darling." Vodka down and went in and killed it. Completely lacerated that vocal. His vocal delivery is mind-blowing. He sounds as powerful as ever, defying his illness. The guitar solo, the soaring bridge, and the sheer emotional weight of the song make it one of Queen's most legendary tracks, and my 8th favourite. What a way to end.
I face it with a grin. I'm never giving in. I'm with the find the will to carry on with the show.
Innuendo is a remarkable album, given the circumstances surrounding its creation. Freddie was incredibly ill, yet his voice sounds as strong as ever. There's a mix of dramatic, grandiose tracks and lighter, more playful songs, giving the album a unique balance between heaviness and fun. Some tracks feel a bit weak, but the highs are very high. An A-tier album, a superb and strong way to end their careers. But there would be one more Queen album to follow in the wake of Freddie's sad passing. Released 4 years after Freddie Mercury's passing, Made in Heaven is a posthumous album built from leftover recordings, reworked solo songs, and a few completely new compositions. The result is a mix of powerful emotional tracks and some filler, but considering the circumstances, it's impressive how cohesive it all feels. Freddie's vocals, recorded in his final months, carry an eerie but beautiful sense of farewell. We open with a strange intro track that lacks much musical substance in It's a Beautiful Day. Freddie's vocals are lovely, but it doesn't feel like a full song, more like a half-formed idea. Then we come to Made in Heaven, the album's highlight. Reworked from Freddie's 1985 solo song, this version sounds much grander. The guitar licks add an epic soaring quality and the chorus is strong. One of the more uplifting tracks despite the album's somber context.
That's what everybody says to me. Can't you see? Oh, I know that it's true. Yes, it's really meant to be. Deep in my heart.
Next up is Let Me Live, a gospel rock ballad that featured shared vocals from Freddie, Roger and Brian, no Deacon. The piano and the choir harmonies give it a smooth, warm feel. Originally recorded in 1983, it's one of the more polished tracks on the album. Mother Love is next, Freddie's final vocal recording. He managed to finish the first 2 verses, but was too ill to complete the last one, so Brian May sings the rest. That moment, where you expect Freddie's voice but hear May instead, is heartbreaking. The song itself is hauntingly beautiful, with Freddie's vocals in the first verse hitting an incredible high. We followed this heart-wrenching track with My Life Has Been Saved. Originally a B-side from 1989, this one feels like filler. It's solid, but nothing special compared to the stronger ballads here. Then comes I Was Born to Love You, another track reworked from Freddie's 1985 solo album. This version is a fast-paced rock song with fantastic energy and vocals. It's just a fun, feel-good song.
So take a chance with me, let me romance with you. I'm caught in a dream and my dreams come true. So hard to believe this is happening to me. An amazing feeling coming through. I was born to love you.
Heaven for Everyone follows. Originally recorded for Roger Taylor's band The Cross in 1987, this one was later turned into a Queen song. It has a strong, beautiful ballad feel, very powerful.
Yeah, this could be heaven for everyone. This world could be fair. This world could be fun. This should be love for everyone. This world should be free. This world could be one. We should bring love to our daughters and sons.
After this we have Too Much Love Will Kill You. This was originally recorded for The Miracle in 1988 but got cut. A slower, piano-driven song that builds nicely. It has a warm, heartfelt quality and the guitar solo is excellent.
Too much love will kill you if you can't make up your mind. Torn between the lover and the love you leave behind. You're headed for disaster, 'cause you never read the signs. Too much love will kill you every time.
Another album shining note is You Don't Fool Me. This song is a miracle in itself, assembled from leftover vocal snippets and somehow transformed into a fully realized track. The funky, almost dance-like rhythm makes it stand out, and Brian May's guitar solo is epic. Following that amazing track, we fall off a cliff with A Winter's Tale, the last song Freddie ever wrote on his own. But alas, it doesn't make it immune from criticism. A Christmas-themed ballad, but unfortunately, it's kind of dull. The background harmonies and guitar solo are nice, but it doesn't have much impact. Nor does the following track, the reprise version of the opener It's Beautiful Day. Basically the same as the opening track, but with a rockier feel. Slightly better, but still nothing special. Then we, for some reason, end on a 22.5-minute track of absolutely nothing. Why? What was the point? Just a waste of space. As the final Queen album with Freddie Mercury, Made in Heaven is a bittersweet farewell. It's a mix of table scraps and reworked material, yet it still manages to feel like a proper album. The best tracks hold up well, while others feel underwhelming. The sheer emotion behind this record, knowing how it was made, makes it worth listening to, even if it's one of the weaker albums overall, with sparse highlights. And there you have it, the full roller coaster ride of Queen's discography, from the heavy, uneven start of Queen in '73 to the bittersweet farewell of Made in Heaven in '95. This band took us on a wild trip through 14 albums, with Freddie Mercury's unmatched charisma leading the charge. For me, their Miracle stands tall as their pinnacle, a late career gem packed with energy and bangers. But the A-tier classics like A Night at the Opera, with its untouchable Bohemian Rhapsody, and the epic A Kind of Magic album are right there too. Even their weakest efforts like Queen 2 have moments of brilliance that outshine most bands' best days. I mean, The March of the Black Queen is a prelude to greatness. What I love most is how Queen proved the critics wrong time and again, and left an indelible mark on the music industry that few can match. Real fans knew Queen's magic from the start. Freddie's charisma, that grandiose charm, and a sound that could be heavy, catchy, or downright weird. But what about Queen after Freddie? Well, his death in 1991 left a void no one could fill. John Deacon, the unsung hero, smartly and respectfully retired, bowing out with dignity. Meanwhile, Roger Taylor, and especially Brian May, keep trying to hold the spotlight. And honestly, it's a mixed bag. They've tinkered with the legacy like that pitch-corrected rehash of the debut album, smoothing out Freddie's raw edge in a way that feels wrong, and that offensively low-effort AI music video, unworthy of Queen's name. To me, without Freddie, there is no Queen. He was the star, the soul, the irreplaceable force.
To be honest, I'm sure Brian would say, in the end, we want to be respected as musicians. And I don't want to change people's lives by the music. I just want people, after I finish, to say that, okay, you know, Queen were a band that came out with good music, and people enjoyed their music and had fun.
Here is how I rank the Queen albums from worst to best. 14th, Queen 2, C+. 13th, Queen, C+. 12th, Made in Heaven, B-. 11th, A Day at the Races, B-. 10th, The Works, B. 9th, News of the World, B. 8th, Sheer Heart Attack, B+. 7, The Game, B+. 6th, Jazz, B+. 5th, Innuendo, A-. 4th, A Kind of Magic, A-. 3rd, Hot Space, A-. 2nd, A Night at the Opera, A. And first, The Miracle, A*. So, where do you stand? What's your favourite Queen album? Tell me below. If you enjoyed, leave a like and comment, as it really helps out. Long live Queen.
Give it to me one more time!
Difícil, né, ser líder do Queen, quer dizer, você tem problema de relacionamento com os quatro por ser o líder do grupo?
Yes, I am the leader of the group, yes.